On this episode of The Practice, we have Mike Maddock. Mike is an entrepreneur, keynote speaker, executive coach, and best-selling author. And he's a dear friend of mine. He proudly calls himself an idea monkey for his love of solving big problems with disruptive ideas. This passion has led him to found Maddock Douglas in 1991, an innovation consultancy that's helped over 25% of the Fortune 100s launch new products, services, and business models. Mike has founded multiple successful companies, including his latest venture, Flourish Advisory Boards, an invite-only advisory board designed to help leaders thrive in rapidly changing business environments. Mike's a lifelong doodler turned cartoonist turned author. Mike has used words and pictures to get laughs and build ideas for decades. He's a contributor to Forbes and Inc. and the author of 4 best-selling books. Most recently, Plan D, a guide for disruptors. If you're someone who's navigating change, trying to figure out how to rebound from trauma, leading through pressure, or building something bigger than yourself, you might want to take a listen. I'm looking forward to this conversation. I can't wait. So,
are we going to talk about things we've never talked about before?
I don't know. Maybe. We'll see where it goes. Is there anything we haven't talked about before?
We'll find out, I guess.
So look, for the audience, I'd love for you to like share your story. Tell me a little bit about you.
Okay. Are we filming right now?
Yeah, we've been filming.
So
we've been filming the prefrontal cortex.
I see what you did. Okay. So I'm an entrepreneur. I tell anybody that'll ask that I'm an entrepreneur. And the way I became an entrepreneur is that by chance, serendipitously, I worked for entrepreneurs. So I grew up mostly in Chicago, moved 9 times before 4th grade. So I got used to the idea of reinventing myself very early. I remember having this thought when I went to St. Joseph's School in Homewood that, hey, I get to start over. Life is a blank canvas. And that has been...
Wasn't scary for you?
No, I'd moved so many times that when I was like, okay, what am I going to be now? I can start over. And that's fundamentally part of who I am. Like starting over is fun for me. And then my parents, we didn't have a lot of money. My mom stayed at home. My dad worked. And in order to have any kind of freedom, I needed a couple pennies in my pocket. So as soon as I could, I'm cutting lawns. I'm, clearing snow off of driveways. I'm getting my friends to help. I'm booking, the houses and getting them to do it, and then I started getting, my first job was 31 Flavors, Irene and Ron Dolmeyer. 2 months after that, Cy Gordon, Gordon's Fine Furniture. So I had both of those jobs, both entrepreneurs. And the blessing was I got to see behind the curtain, and then I saw, I saw tears, I saw joy, I saw a lot of mistakes. I saw that people weren't perfect. They were just trying to figure it out, and so this entrepreneurship journey, every job I had until I started my own company was watching an entrepreneur trying to figure it out. And I had about a dozen jobs, and it was just by chance they were all entrepreneurs.
Amazing. So that's how you became an entrepreneur. But what else is your story? I mean, you're more than an entrepreneur.
No, that's it.
That's it. What have you learned along the way?
So there are all different kinds of people. I'm one of those people that believes that you can run 10 experiments, and if 6 of them go okay, you'll be fine. I think that, getting into action is more powerful than overthinking. Mm-hmm. I don't know that that's right, but that's kind of fundamentally who I've always been. And my father is retired as a captain in the Navy, and so I have sort of a servant leader as a hero, and I watched him be, a man of integrity. He's never said anything he was going to do and didn't do it my whole life. So I have this idealistic look at what leadership looks like. My mother was a teacher for like a minute, and she was this imaginative, creative person, God rest her soul. So I had 2 different types of people leading me as a kid. My mom, this creative, brilliant, lovely, imaginative woman, and my dad, an operator who played by the rules and still does.
Got it. But what do you want the audience to know about the 2 of us? Our how we interact.
Well, do you remember how we met?
It had to be something with forum or presenting, but I cannot remember. Enlighten me.
I think I was thinking about this on
I
the
have
way down.
Alzheimer's disease.
Yeah,
Not
me
Alzheimer's,
too.
Alzheimer's.
Alzheimer's, me
right?
too. Yeah.
It's a non-clinical diagnosis.
Your name is Ari, right?
Yeah.
So we've known each other probably 15 years. Is that about right?
Yeah, actually a little bit more because it was right before I started the U of C stuff. Yeah.
Okay. So the way I remember it is we wanted an expert in high performing, healthy business leaders to come in and talk to my YPO forum.
Yeah.
And we found you, and you came in and did the Ari thing, like came in and laid down the truth, laid down the law. This is what you need to do. Don't do this. It was really fun. And afterwards, I think I approached you and said, are you in a group? Are you in a peer group?
So this is okay. So this story, I think you might have come to U of C before that, right? Or had maybe Russ or others. It might have been others that had been there, and that was then our first meeting.
I think the first time I saw you
was when I presented in that.
You were
forum.
on your feet in front of a forum, and I remember going to you and saying, "Hey, I have a peer group. We're looking for some people. You'd be a really good fit because you're this. You're kind of an enigma, right? You're a professional. You're a doctor, and you're also an entrepreneur. And I was immediately attracted to your mojo. Certain people have a mojo about them, and I'm like, come on." Join the tribe, and you said yes. So that was
and that was almost 10 years ago,
right?
Thinking about our forum together. Yeah, awesome. So your early identity was really sort of, inspired by reinvention, entrepreneurship, and role models as parents. You said, talk to me about becoming an entrepreneur, starting a family, doing all of those things.
Yeah, so I want to give my mom some love. I just lost my mom this year, and she had this amazing ability to take any situation and make it wonderful, like full of wonder, wonderful. She would, if it was raining, she'd be like, "Isn't this the best? Can you believe this rain? It's magical outside." I remember this one time. We didn't have a lot of money, I mentioned, and I can look back now and know that we were living paycheck to paycheck. And so she's got 3 boys and a daughter. We're in the back of a station wagon. We're all hungry. We're ravenous. She pulls up at a grocery store, and she's like, "Okay, I'll be right back. Stay here." And we're wrestling in the back of this car. She comes out with a deli thing of cheese and starts throwing it into the back seat like we're wolves. And we're like, "Rah!" It's like, "Isn't this the best cheese ever? Isn't this great?" So she took a moment where we were like, we thought we were starving. We weren't, and made it this magical moment. And she did that all the time. And I didn't realize it, but I now know that she was planting these little seeds of wonder. And I've taken that with me. Like I spent a lot of time with disruptors like you. And the way I define disruptors is they see possibility where other people see problems. They can walk into any room and go, "Isn't this the best?" Like people's hair will be on fire. Like, "This is awesome. Can you believe we have this opportunity to do A, B, or C?" And I totally credit my mom for that. She was always hunting treasure. There was never anything that was bad. That was always good. And she gave me that gift, and I've carried it with me.
You paid that forward. I see that with your boys. I mean, I will tell you. So, one of the best stories I heard about, parenthood with you or experiences is that you bury treasure, and you and your family will hunt for treasure on a trip, right? There's a map, there's clues, and you'll go ahead and do that. Is that?
Yeah, I wanted them to be looking for treasure, and I actually have a great video of this. I just happened to have been filming it. And we went to Costa Rica, and, we look for treasure every day. We didn't find it. I'd made a treasure map. And I'd done the same thing with my oldest son a few years before in Jamaica. I wrote this poem: "Look to the tallest of the trees that you spy. Count 10 paces to the ocean you go. Then to the south, 20 go by. You're closer to me, treasure, than you know." Gar! And so we'd look for treasure every day on the beach and we didn't find it. And on the last day, I have this video of my son finding treasure and it's amazing. Like this treasure that I had buried on the beach. And I remember talking to my older son a few minutes later. He's sitting on the beach and he's like thinking about it and he's having a Santa Claus moment. That's where he really wants to believe. But a strangely similar thing happened a few years before. And I'm like, why do we find treasure? And the lesson is you have to be looking for treasure to find it. And that's what I wanted my kids to see. Fast forward, like 5 years later, I got a metal detector and we're in the Cayman Islands and I'm burying stuff on the beach and they're finding it. And then my son found like a silver dollar. And I'm like, he goes, Dad, you buried that? I'm like, nope, I didn't bury that one. There's always treasure.
There's always treasure.
There's always treasure in every room.
That's magic. I've taken that with me. I'm inspired by that creativity and intentionality, right? Like most people think creatives are just on a whim, but that was planned. It was thoughtful, and it was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I hope they do it with their kids. That would make me really happy. Hope they have kids. That would make me even happier.
We'll see if we keep that in or out. We'll definitely save the clip, though, for them.
Okay.
I'll send it one day.
Whatever. That's fine.
Talk to me about faith and gratefulness in your practice and in your life.
So my father's a minister. I grew up in a Catholic family, and I've always had a pretty strong faith. I'm attracted to people with a strong faith. And I don't, it's weird. The religion doesn't matter to me. Mm-hmm. There's something about people that are humble beneath a higher power that I feel is really attractive.
A surrender of sorts?
Yeah. It makes people more humble, more curious, more grateful. And so I consider myself a man of faith. I think faith is a gift. My late wife, Ruthie, had tremendous faith. My wife, Tina, has an amazing faith. So, but I think gratefulness, you asked a question about gratefulness.
Yep. Gratefulness and faith practice.
Yeah, I think so. I read a book. One of my favorite books ever is What Happy People Know by Dr. Dan Baker, like top 3 books. And he was a professor out in University of Nebraska. What I love about the book is it talks about like the science and psychology of gratitude. And I learned that the brain cannot be afraid and grateful at the same time. It's physically impossible. And I learned this early on. And so I started these practices whenever I was afraid, which was a lot, taking a lot of risks in business. And I had these kids and I was just worried about things going wrong. I would make a list of things to be grateful for. And I've carried that with me.
So look, life always presents us with fear, and you we'll get to this a little later. You coach and lead a lot of leaders, across the country, which is a gift. And how do you handle fear? It still comes up, right? How do you get yourself out of that victim portion of your drama triangle?
Okay, so my oldest son had anxiety as a kid, and he would be thrown up before every class, every football game, every soccer game. And eventually I'm like, hey dude, you're a warrior. Your body is physically getting ready to fight. Someday this will be a gift to you. That fear you have, that's what courage feels like. That's what courage feels like. And so I think it's the frame. David Zellman is a good friend of mine, and he saw me speak. This is years ago before I was speaking professionally. And he saw me speak in front of 75 of my closest friend entrepreneurs out at MIT. I was nervous because I really wanted to perform for them. I wanted to give them a gift, and I was afraid I wasn't going to do it. So I kept saying, I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous. I'm really nervous. And afterwards he said, hey, can I give you some feedback? Now, when Dr. David Zellman says, can I give you feedback? It's like a master mechanic saying, can I work on your engine? And I said, sure, Dave, give me some feedback. He goes, are you sure? Are you ready for feedback? And I go, yeah. And he goes, okay, you keep saying you're nervous, but you're not showing up as nervous. So you're not doing me any good, and you're not doing yourself any good. So you're done being nervous. Do you understand me? And I said, yeah. And he goes, no, 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 no. Let me repeat that. You keep saying you're nervous. You're not showing up as nervous. So you're not doing me any good, and you're not doing yourself any good. So you're never going to be nervous again. Do you understand me? And I said, yeah. And you know what? I was never nervous again. When I get ready to go on stage, I feel excited, and I tell myself, man, am I excited? This is going to be amazing. So it's like fear or anxiety. I know it's
so it's the neurochemical response, right? And this is a great point, that the neurochemistry, right, that happens when we have a surge of adrenaline, how we label that, the emotion we use is really important.
It is everything. Right. It is everything. Like, are you afraid or are you excited? I'm excited. And I recently, my oldest son now, is in medical school. And he just repeated this back to me. Like, he was so nervous about something. He goes, yeah, that's what courage feels like. He goes, yeah, that's what Bob Pohl, my gymnastics coach, said to me. And I'm like, he is a great coach, like that, just that flip.
Do you still come up against fear these days?
I come up against feelings and I decide how to deal with them. Here's the thing. The worst advice I ever got turned out to be the best advice. My mom, anybody who's an entrepreneur out there or a business owner knows that this is what it looks like. It's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. And I was at one of these points where it was down. And looking at doing the first layoff in my company's history. And these are people I loved. I mean, I knew their kids. I love these people, and I was so upset about it. And my mom's like, well, why don't you just imagine the worst thing that can happen and just deal with that and then move on. And I'm like, Mom, you want me to, what's the worst advice ever? I am frail. I am fragile. And you want me to imagine bad things? And so, 4 years ago, the worst thing did happen, and you were the first person I called, Ari. My wife had a seizure. I took her to the hospital. I said, I think she's having a stroke. They rushed her in, and 20 minutes later, there's a doctor saying, your wife's not having a stroke. There's a mass on her brain. We have to decide whether the cancer started there or somewhere else. And the air went out of the room. And I remember just like going, I was just like, I made some joke about, how about some foreplay to the doctor? Because I'm like, I can't believe you just said that to me. And then I called you from the lobby sobbing. You were a good friend. You're like, what do you need from me? I remember it like it was yesterday. I'm on my way to Michigan. You want me to turn around, be with you? What do you need? I told you what I needed, and it happened quickly. The worst thing I could imagine happened. My wife passed away. She was amazing. She was wonderful. And guess what? On the other side of it, there's treasure. It's been really, really difficult, and it's been beautiful. Like, I learned a lot about life and love and leading through a very difficult time. I wouldn't wish it on anyone, but it turns out that on the other side of that, I just was recently remarried. Here's the thing. If you ask God really, in a really sweet way, it turns out that he'll send another angel into your life if you're really sweet about it. And so the worst thing happened. And now when I think about my mom's advice, I'm like, wow, that was pretty damn good advice.
That's pretty epic advice.
Yeah.
Ruthie lives on through a lot of us.
Yeah. Amen.
What is it? The yellow dandelion, the sunflower, right? I have a little thing of sunflowers in my photo album on my phone. And Ruthie did this amazing thing, and maybe we can get a video and put it up if you're open to it. In the pandemic, the ding dong dance.
Yeah.
Oh, what a gift. So, for those listening or watching it all, Ruthie did this amazing thing where in the pandemic, when we weren't allowed to be together and everybody was kind of freaking out, particularly in the early days, she'd bring a CD player, a boombox. It wasn't even a boombox, or her car. She'd get the song they liked. She would ring the doorbell, and she'd be in the yard 8 feet away dancing, and just brought joy. That's amazing.
Yeah, she really loved connection. It was her way of making sure that her friends and family and people were feeling loved and connected. It was she also painted these rocks. And they would say things like trust and faith. She was an artist, and she would leave them all around Glen Ellen and then on people's porches secretly. She'd just put them on their porch, and on the back, she'd have a little Bible verse. And I remember at her celebration of life, 3 or 4 people came up to me and said, I've had that rock by my sink. I had no idea where it came from. She'd leave them all over our town so people could find them. And she was amazing. And I feel, and my kids feel the same way. We were so blessed to have her. You and I, Ari, have lots of close friends. We're lucky. And I think it's kind of rare to know so many people intimately. And I know a lot of men that way. And having a good marriage is really hard to find.
It's really hard to find.
It's really hard. And I got it,
Mm-hmm.
and so I can hold gratitude in one hand and grief in the other, because I know that it's like winning the Super Bowl. What am I going to complain about? And now I have another relationship and I'm so grateful. So yeah, she was a blessing.
Thank you for sharing about Ruthie.
Yeah, grief is really hard and I'm still grieving. So, and I don't think I know enough about grief. Like, I don't have much to say about it other than everybody does it differently and it's a process,
We don't have to, but I want to open up the possibility that type of vulnerability and not having it fully finished is super real.
I'm happy to talk about it. I just don't have much to say.
But you're feeling a lot, you're going through a lot, you're holding a bunch of emotions. And like, I think one of the things that I think is so valuable is that it's not about perfection, right? It's not about the knowledge and total application and that you figured it out. Like, this is your courage, right? So this courage here is to sit with like, oh my God, I lost the love of my life, right? This woman who you refuse to accept no as an answer for going out on a date, right? You haven't shared that story, but like, right, you were persistent and you had this wonderful life together. And she was taken from you too soon, right? And in the same breath, you are remarried to an amazing woman, right? Who there's a lot of possibility and a lot of creation, right? It's happening. You have 2 boys who are not done growing, nor will they ever be done growing, right? You're never going to be done as a dad. How the hell do you hold all of that? And it's totally fucking okay to say, I don't know, man. It's hard. But that's why I have these peer groups. That's why I connect to these mentors, right? That's why this is there. That's like, to me, that is life, right? There's magic in that conversation.
Yeah. I had friends asking me if I was okay. And I really didn't know, like I sometimes I feel okay, sometimes I don't. I do think I am noticing that people grieve on their own schedule. Like for me, Ruth, the moment I called you, the moment I heard brain cancer, I started grieving. There's this thing called anticipatory grief. Like I was grieving her. The moment I heard that, like, oh my gosh. And I remember having that conversation with my boys, like, she's really sick. This is not going to end well. But I don't know that they started grieving until she actually died. So so I had a couple year head start on it. I think, well, how do you grieve? What do you do about grief?
Well, I think if I'm being honest, I avoid, I hide, right? When I'm really feeling that pain, I probably go back to some childhood tendencies of trying to be mean or push people away to see if they really love me, right? I think I've gotten better now that I have more people in my life that I feel safe with. I try and sit with it. It's really uncomfortable. I don't actually know what I need or want from anybody else, right? But I want my loved ones to just kind of be around me, right? Even if I'm miserable, right? It's so weird, right? Like, I'm hard to be around, but I need you near me, right?
Yeah, and I numb myself. There's actually a really good show on TV, Shrinking. Have you seen that?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, Tina, my wife, is like, hey, I'm watching this show and I want to talk to you about it, but I'm afraid to talk to you about it because it feels really relevant, but it might bring up a bunch of stuff. I'm like, So I go, well, what's the show called? So I watched the first couple episodes, caught up with her, and I cried. I'm like, that was really hard. It's about a guy that loses his wife and has a high school daughter. And that it brought up a lot of stuff for me because I had friends calling like, are you okay? I think you might be drinking too much. I'm like, oh, I'm drinking too much. Like I was intentionally numbing. And so it was so overwhelming for me. And here's what I do know about grief. I think the biggest lesson I've learned through all this is that grace starts with yourself. Like in order for you to forgive other people, you have to be graceful with yourself. And I'm just like, oh my God, I am a dumpster fire right now. And it's okay. I'm doing the best I can. So I was lucky to be supported by lots and lots of friends who are like, what do you need? But it is messy. And I think everyone does it their own way.
So you don't always have to have your shit together, even if you're an amazing leader. Is that?
I think amazing leaders absolutely don't have their shit together much of the time. And the most amazing leaders are the ones who are willing to admit it.
So, yeah, I mean, that's it. So how is grief showing up for you today? And is it as frequent and as painful as it was before?
It's episodic and unpredictable. Like that shrinking show is like picking a scab.
Yep.
And I actually found myself falling into some bad habits because of it. Like I regressed watching it and I noticed it. But a song, a memory, a dream, grief shows up for me in dreams a lot now. And mostly with my boys, I grieve for them.
Do they want you to grieve for them?
Yeah. I'm sure my son's, he's told me, he just like, they don't want their mom to be forgotten and they're afraid of forgetting their mom.
Yeah.
I forget her laugh. I forget her, like.
But she did this magical thing, right? Where she recorded how many hours of video?
6 hours. My forum mates suggested that I film Ruth. I couldn't do it. And it was a week before her brain surgery. And the doctor said she might not be able to speak afterwards. So Brian, God love him, for 3 days in a row, 2 hours a day in the same suit, showed up on Zoom during the pandemic and asked her all kinds of questions. And I have 6 hours of film as a gift to people someday when I'm ready to edit it and they're ready to receive it.
Got it. Well, she is not forgotten.
Yeah, thank you.
Here's the thing that I think as I've now had a couple of conversations, everybody presents polished. And then when everybody talks about messy, it's like a total shitstorm. But nobody really talks about the meandering through, right? How can you hold some of the principles of discipline and organization and focus and preparedness while still, right, having messy stuff, right? And it's, maybe it's compartmentalization, but maybe it's also just like presence and surrender in the moments we're in. And so like, thank you for doing that. I've now cried twice. That's just real, right?
And I think a question for leaders is, where do you get to do that? Who do you get to do that with?
Well, and I think that is a huge one. That is just so hard, right? When you're your authentic self, right? How do you ask for grace when you're messy in the context of a workday? When you're managing the emotions of, 10 million fires you're putting out, right? And the to-dos and the meeting and you're hungry, it's and like, how do you, that's a real challenge.
Particularly when people are looking to you to be the one that has all the ideas. We're in a really crazy economic time, and particularly so I'm with 80 or so CEOs a month. And particularly for the ones who are used to having the answers or the numbers or the strategy, like this is what the numbers say we should do. It's a very difficult time for them because their go-to punch no longer works. It's not serving them right now. And that's a hard thing to say in front of your team. Like, I don't have the answers. I think that every leader needs a place to go and say that.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not suggesting you should always stand in front of your team and go, I don't know what I'm doing. But I think it's okay sometimes to go, I need help. What are we going to do about this? Because I don't know what to do right now.
Isn't that what you said was courage, right? Like it's a chance for humility and gratitude and to be courageous. Like, yeah, it's scary. I'm not totally sure.
Well, here's what I know. I know that if you don't say something, people make up their own story.
I totally agree with that.
And I think saying I am really confused and trying to figure it out and could use your help is way better than people thinking you're doing the wrong thing, you don't know what you're doing, or just making up something that isn't true. It doesn't make it easier, but that's the reality. You know, people long for leadership, and sometimes great leadership looks like humility. You know?
Yeah. I also find, and this is just the, sort of the juxtaposition of it, sometimes you can share too much.
Yeah.
And, I God bless my COO, Mark Reitens. He has given me the gift of perspective and patience and to be measured, right? He's a creative, he's super thoughtful, and right, he's helped me see this other side, which is, think about, right? Be intentional. Yes, share, be open, but understand the weight of who you are relative to the other individuals and how it sort of might affect them, right? So you can share too much and, can have a negative effect.
Yeah. I think there's a whole conversation about partners and what you trust each other to do. I can be trusted to. We have this exercise at Maddox Douglas where you can trust me too, and this is my trigger. And we would do it before meetings, and they were both really important. And I remember, like, my partner Louisa, her trigger was being caught unaware. It's like, don't surprise me, don't catch me unaware. And she's pragmatic and thoughtful and a diplomat. She wanted to be able to process things. So knowing what my trigger is fairness. My trigger has always been if I feel like I've been treated unfairly, bad things are going to happen. Now, it's a big word, but what can you trust me to do? What am I trusting you to do? What are you trusting me to do? And that happens at home and at work. And when you are really clear about that, it's great. When you're not, that's where the fighting happens, particularly at work for me.
Yeah, the trusted to, and then the trigger part is a good one. That is, I'm going to add that in. I really like that.
Yeah, knowing people's triggers, starting meetings that way, it's really interesting.
Oh, it's fascinating. I find that I want and need all my materials ahead of time.
What's your trigger? That's you want to be prepared. Yeah, you want to be surprised
because I'm afraid of being a total mess in front of people when I'm supposed to be prepared.
You want to be prepared.
I want to be prepared because my process of understanding is really messy for people. And the story I tell myself is it's also sometimes damaging. So I want to wall that off, protect it, do it because I respect it.
You want to do the work.
I want to do the work so I can show up well. And I hate when I'm put on the spot, forced to make a decision or do something that I haven't thought about and I show up foolishly.
Yeah.
Because I think I could have done better.
You've mentored my oldest son a little bit, and you two are so much alike. It's so great. I mean, I see him in you, and it makes me feel really strong because you've been such a good friend and so successful. And it hasn't been, I mean, I've been on the journey with you. It's been fun to watch, sometimes not so fun to do, but that's the journey.
But it's a journey, right? It's like, it's how do you know what to pack, right? In your backpack and, the people with you as you're going on this journey. It's not, I don't know what tomorrow's going to bring, right? And, it's, can you find joy along the way too? Because, we're like between fence post of tragedies, right? Like life presents us hard everywhere.
And, I'm thinking about our peer groups, the ones that we've done together. Mm-hmm. And I'm thinking about the people that I knew 26 years ago and what they look like today. And I've heard people say people don't change, and that's just total bullshit. People do change. They're the core of who they are might be the same, but the things that were complete blind spots for them, if they've done the work, are transformative. Like, we have a friend whose company has won best place to work like a dozen times. When I met this person, if you would have told me this guy's going to build the best place to work company, I'm like, he would have said, you're out of your mind. And I would have said, yeah, he's right. But because he has done the work and surrounded himself with people that he trusts to say, dude, blind spot maybe, he's become a much, much better leader. And I have literally dozens of stories like that. So getting back to you reminding me of my son, he says people don't change. I'm like, oh, dude, you're changing every day.
Yeah, I mean, you change by choice or you change by force.
One of those is way easier than the other.
I mean, yeah, like, you can go kicking and screaming. It's a lot of wasted energy.
Well, and pain, unfortunately, is sort of the indication that you are changing or need to change. It's another paradox, We want to keep our children from feeling pain or having adversity, but it's the pain and adversity that makes them spectacular.
Totally.
That's the parenting paradox. Please don't let my kids suffer. But if they don't suffer, I tell myself this story often that my kids went through a really difficult time, but it'll make them extraordinary someday.
Yeah. They are extraordinary now. They're just,
yes, of course.
They're building the pieces.
Even more extraordinary.
Yeah, they're just building the pieces, right?
Yeah.
I want to tangent on a topic that you brought up in our forum, I don't know, maybe a year or two ago that I love to just unpack because it like really resonated with me. And I don't know where this will go, but you made this statement, and I was talking about issues with my dad, right? You made this statement that you find that most male entrepreneurs have daddy issues. That's what you said.
Did I say that?
You said that.
That sounds
right?
like something I'd say.
You said that. And I was like, oh, really? And then I started, poking around that question, asking some folks, and I concur, right? So I'd love to unpack, like, was that just because of your own stuff? Was it because of what you've seen? How has that affected you? Is your father's aging? What have you, has any of that changed? I mean, I'd love to learn, right?
Well, so to be clear, all of my observations are from being in rooms with leaders who are authentic and they have the courage to share what they're actually thinking. So this is just stuff I picked up. I'm not a psychologist, but I have noticed that just taking it one step further, that I've never met a really successful person that is neither chasing a ghost or being chased by one. And it is the thing that drives them to get up earlier, to work harder, to have grit instead of quit. They're not giving up. And Jimmy Kimmel lost his job yesterday. I hope so. And so he's top of mind. He was the MC at the White House Correspondents' Dinner when President Obama was the president. And there's this moment where he turns to the camera and says, hey, and I want to give a shout out to my 7th grade English teacher, Mr. Williamson, who said I'd never amount to anything. Well, Mr. Williamson, I'm about to high five the president of the United States. And he turns to President Obama and he goes, is it okay? And President Obama is like, sure. And he gets up and high fives him. He turns back to the camera. He's like, suck it, Williamson. That's his ghost. By the way, his name wasn't Williamson. I don't remember the last name, but you get the point. Is it the coach? Is it the teacher? For guys, it's oftentimes we're still that little boy trying to impress our dad. Here's the thing. Never met a successful person that isn't being chased or chasing a ghost. The question is, who's chasing who? And so I think realizing it and owning it and having fun with it and being competitive with it is really healthy. It's when you're not doing that it manifests in really weird ways.
Do you have to hold on to that ghost or can you let go of it?
Well, I think that we all eventually are like, I'm okay the way I am anyway, but I think it's good. I'm not saying it's bad.
It's a driver early on.
Every competitive person finds a way to put a chip on their shoulder. Look at Michael Jordan. He was looking to pick a fight. Did you disrespect me? I didn't disrespect you. I didn't. Yes, you did. And now it's a thing. Yeah.
It's a thing. Got it. You know what? I think that's really insightful. The sort of the growth and maturity. We have our ghost, right? Or our blind spots. Who's helped you see your blind spots?
Oh, my peers, my friends. I'm all into peer groups, as you know. I've been in one for 26 years, another one for 15. I have a company that engineers peer groups, and the best peer groups are filled with people that you trust, respect, know you, and are willing to call you on your bullshit. And that manifests itself in a lot of different ways, but it starts with trust and shared values. And being authentic and vulnerable. And when you can do that, when someone like you comes to me and says, hey, like you did a couple nights ago, hey, I see something in your life and I want to challenge you on it. My response was like, thank you. Okay, we should talk about that. But it all started because we have this relationship. And if you surround yourself with people that see the world differently than you do, which is really hard today to do, they see your challenges as like, I see a problem, you see a possibility. I see it differently than you. And here's how I see it. That's how you get unstuck. And that's how you realize that, whoa, maybe I'm doing this the wrong way or looking at it the wrong way. Great leaders know how to do that.
You had Idea Monkey, you had Ringleader, you had all these, you are a builder, right?
That's one word for it.
What word do you have for it?
I think other people would say I tear things apart and put them back together, but...
Well, maybe that's your shadow edge and ghost when you're, but I think you're a builder, right? I think you're a convener. And I think if you want to build perfection, right? Or I would even say good enough. It doesn't have to be perfect. And you want to help people. So I see that day in and day out.
Thank you.
Talk to me about handling conflict within these leadership groups. How do you do it? What do you do when you have all these different dynamics, egos, knowledge base, right? Past historical success. How do you bring all of these people together to align?
All right. So I have some hot takes on peer groups. Would you like them?
I love them.
All right. So in no particular order, hot takes on peer groups. If you all go to the same bathroom or the same church, you're in the wrong peer group. Because my favorite saying is you can't read the label when you're sitting inside the jar. And disruption comes from outside the jar, not inside the jar. What that means is, it's the expertise trap. You know what works, you know what doesn't work, you know what you've tried in the past, you know what your boss wants, you know what you can afford, you know. And so congratulations, you're an expert. And that's great for incremental change, but not dramatic change. So having a peer group that sees things differently, that sees your challenges differently is critical. It's essential that you have different lenses in the group. That's number one. Number two, values matter. So I think peer groups start and end with the values they support. And when you're out of line with the values, there's going to be a real issue. So if there's an issue in the group, I think you start by looking at the values and say, is this what we want to be here for? We've talked about this. Are we here to be friends or are we here to make each other better? Both are fine, but you have to share the same values to keep that together. I think a peer group needs a moderator, a professional moderator. I think that peer group should be moderated by someone who is a peer. So too many peer groups are moderated by people that are just trying to make money, just trying to, have a social context. When you're a peer, for business peer groups, if you ran a P&L, when you ask questions, when you share experience, there's empathy there because you feel it. Mm-hmm. I think that's absolutely critical. What other hot takes do I have for you? Well, that's enough for now.
Why did you start Flourish Advisory Boards?
Yeah, I actually started Flourish Advisory Boards because I saw a need in the market. Well, my purpose is to inspire and empower curiosity. To do that by connecting people and possibility. I really, really, really love going, oh, you got to meet this guy because this person can really help you with that challenge. I do it just naturally. I just love doing it. I love connecting
you're a
people
maven. You're a
impossible.
master connector.
Thank you. And I do it because I just love seeing 1 + 1 = 5. And so, in my journey to start businesses and solve problems, I'm like, here's something that fits right in my wheelhouse. Like, I'm going to do this anyway. So, and I saw that in my own life, there were times when my executive team, for example, all saw problems the same way I did, and with disastrous results. Like I'd unwittingly surrounded myself with people that like to blow stuff up under pressure. And we were really good at it, but we weren't as good at execution. So I had this idea that a peer group should have 6 different characters in it. The characters are the operator, the strategist, the rainmaker, the visionary, the futurist, and the orchestrator, a professional moderator, a professional coach. And the whole idea is if it's engineered, they're true peers, every one of those seats will see problems differently. And they'll give each other the gift of different perspective and critical thinking. And so that when you get stuck and you think it's a nail, they're like, wait, hold on a second. I see a screw. This is how I would solve that problem. And so anyway, I started that company the day before Ruthie got sick. It turned into a very cathartic thing for me to build while she was going through that. I'm all in on it now. It's called Flourish Advisor Boards, and it's amazing.
What do you love about it?
I love seeing people bust through plateaus because you get, if you're in a peer group, you're that person who keeps showing up with the same problem over and over and over again. And it's like they're embarrassed and you're embarrassed because we've talked about this 17 times and no one wants to talk about it again. There's this axiom in design thinking that if you're trying to solve the same problem over and over and can't, you're probably working on the wrong problem. What I love about Flourish is that people see each other's problems differently, so they bust through those plateaus much more readily.
And so, look, you've been in YPO and EO, you've been a president of a chap, like you've done all of that. Why is this different than that or Vistage or, any of the other stuff? And,
Yeah, and I have, okay, so just to be clear, I have mad love for YPO and EO.
We're informed together, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I like amazing organizations, but it's kind of like this. If you're a cook and you just throw a bunch of stuff in, like you put on a blindfold and throw a bunch of stuff in a pot of water and hope the soup is going to taste good, it's going to be too salty or too sweet. And I think that there's no intentionality, or there's a lack of intentionality in a lot of these groups. We just throw a bunch of people in the group. And then what happens is after a while, you start recruiting people like we did with you. Like, oh, you'd be good in our group. And guess what? We recruit people that laugh at our jokes, that look like us, that make us feel good. And it's this, it's kind of a paradox. If everybody's getting along all the time in your group, you're probably in the wrong group, because nobody likes to hear that their baby is fat or ugly. But sometimes it is, like, True. And I would say that makes a lot of sense. Yeah.
What are you struggling with?
What am I struggling with? So I'm newly married to a wonderful woman, and she has a home. She had a home in Tennessee. Now we have a home in Tennessee. And, I just want to be a good dad and a good partner and a good friend. And, I'm not finished being a good dad yet. And so trying to balance the running a company, running a family, being a good friend, being a good husband is hard right now, because I don't want to let anyone down.
What do you need?
What do I need?
Yeah.
I need time. I need to be more patient. Everything will be fine. Just,
So, I know you're only 34 years old, but like
I'm actually 89.
You are.
But I've had a lot of work done.
You have really good doctors.
Yeah, thank you. I spent a lot of time in Miami.
How can you get more time? How do you make that? So you're a total pro. You understand that. You understand that it's going to be fine. You need more time. So what do you do? So
I want to tell you a story that our friend Jonathan Domsky shared with me.
Okay.
I just love this. And so when Ruth was diagnosed with brain cancer, he told me the story. He's like, there's a monk walking in the jungle, and he hears a twig break behind him. He looks behind him, and there's this tiger stalking him. And so he's kind of freaked out. So he starts running, and the tiger's like running after him. He panics, jumps off a cliff, and grabs a vine. So he's hanging from this cliff, looks up, and there's this tiger circling, going, eventually this guy's going to fall. And then 300 feet below, there's another tiger waiting for him to fall. He's in a bad spot. Just then he notices that there's a rat gnawing on the vine he's holding on to. He's having a bad day. Looks to his right. There's a wild strawberry plant growing out of the cliff. He reaches over, grabs a strawberry, and eats it. And in that moment, that strawberry and life were perfect. And John's like, you know what, Mike? Right now, you got to be looking for strawberries. 10 years ago, one of my best friends was diagnosed with stage 4 cancer, liver, colon, stomach. His son was in like 6th grade or something. And he's like, I just want to see my kid graduate high school. I was just with that friend in Ireland. He's been eating strawberries every day for 10 years. What a warrior. So the way you slow down time is you look for strawberries. Like this moment right now, Ari, we're chugging strawberries.
Amen. Amen. Thank you. Your last book was Plan D. Tell me about Plan D, why you wrote about disruptors and the Plan D, and then tell me what you're writing about next.
Okay, so Plan D is about disruptors, people that see possibility where other people see problems. Originally, I was saying people that blew shit up for the good of the whole, but, that's not as politically correct, although true. And I just, I spent a good part of my career helping companies come up with new products, services, business models. So I got to be in the room with CEOs and teams that were trying to birth something new. And I noticed what the best of them had in common. And then I noticed that I had a bunch of friends with those traits. So there's like 7 superhero powers. Don't ask me what they are. Get the book. But I got to write about my friends. So I mentioned Mike McAllowitz earlier in our conversation. He's a chapter. Like he has one of those superhero powers. So I finally got to write a book where I could talk about my friends lovingly. It was a real joy. And it wrote itself because I knew them so well. I just had someone yesterday say it's not really a book. I go, what do you mean? He goes, well, it doesn't read as a book. What he really meant was every chapter kind of is its own little nugget.
You can go wherever you want with it. Yeah.
Right.
What are you writing about now?
I've got 2 books, one that I'm desperately trying not to finish.
You can't just write one book at a time?
Yeah. It's the first
Expected.
The first book is about solving problems and how the best leaders identify the right problem to solve at the right moment in time. And I've desperately been trying not to finish that book for 3 years now. So it's about 80% of the way done. The book that I've spent the most time on recently is called Your Seat at the Table. And it's a Pat Lencioni, my friend Pat. It's a fable. And then it talks about how to put together a team of advisors that helps you see things differently.
Awesome. Can I do a lightning round of some questions for you?
I wish you would, Ari.
You wish I would. Good. Well, then I will do that. What's the biggest mistake you see high achieving business leaders make?
The biggest mistake that I see high achieving business leaders make is leaning into their superhero power too long till it doesn't work. So Marshall Goldsmith says, what got you here won't get you there. He's right. And my experience is that the thing that I was so good at was the very thing that brought down companies in the end. And learning how to figure out what your strength is and then surround yourself with people that have opposing strengths that you really trust those are the keys to the castle.
So knowing what you're good at, knowing what you suck at, and then asking for help and building that as a support network around you.
Yeah, giving away the things that you're not so good at, giving them to people that are great at them, and then respecting the fact that sometimes that tool is what the engine needs. And it's really hard to do. Like I'm an idea monkey. I'm about reinvention, ideas, fix it, change it.
But how do you listen to the operator then when they have to tell you like, hey, idea monkey, go into a different room because we need to actually get shit done?
Well, first you need someone that's a really good operator.
Okay.
Someone that is so good at operating, they can show you the numbers, they can show you the math. Second of all, you need to love and trust that person.
Got it. Love and trust.
Yeah. And it's not just the operator. Those are 2 of the people, but there are 4 others.
Okay. Tell me who the 4 others are.
The strategist. The strategist is the person that once we have determined what the future is going to be, they will draw a straight line and a plan and the KPIs to get to the future. The rainmaker, the person that can put fuel in the engine by coming up with sales models, landing business, sales.
Great. So I'm going to interrupt that for a second. I want to challenge it. So how does a small business actually handle that? Because those are different seats, but the entrepreneurs, especially the creative ones versus the operators. So let's just say there's two seats, right? The creative one thinks he's going to be the strategist and the rainmaker and
they
right?
are. Yeah, they have to be.
So how, right, do you balance all of those, especially as, if you're in the operator seat?
Are you is this a softball pitch? Is that what that is?
Yes, totally.
They join a peer group that is balanced.
Okay.
That's what they do. They find a peer group. Flourish Advisor Boards is engineered so that if you have $1 million in revenue, if you have 10 million, if you have 25 million, there's a group for you. And whatever that seat if you're the operator, there's going to be a strategist, there's going to be a rainmaker. They will be true peers and they will see your problems differently. And if you can come and say, I can't believe this, we need more sales, I'm a rainmaker, we just fix sales. And someone says, really? Does everyone in your company know exactly the KPI that drives sales in your organization? Have you given them that? Because as soon as I did that, everything changed. And that was after trying to hire 4 different sales leaders. That's what changed it. That's the shift.
So it's not just about the content of what to do, but it's about the people and support group to nourish and support you through it and solving problems live.
Amen. And so you said earlier, we're talking about people change because they decide they're going to change. That's true of CEOs. Like, I'm going to change my point of view because I've decided to. And what makes you change? When you really respect someone and you see they've been successful managing the same problem you're having differently, you're willing to go, okay, hold on a second. What did you do? Maybe I've been looking at this the wrong way.
Got it. If your team's underperforming, what's the first thing you should do?
So there's a great 2x2 matrix. It's values and expertise. Lower left, low values, low expertise, fire them. Lower right, high values, low expertise, train them. Top right, high values, high expertise, cherish them. Top left, this is where the poison is. Unbelievable expertise, low values. This is like your rainmaker that's killing it, but is a complete jerk. Got to get rid of them because the people on the top right are going to leave if you don't, because you're not following your values. The first thing is to check values. Do they share your values and company's values, and then train them up?
What are the most admirable traits you see around people who you define as Hall of Famers in life?
Yeah, so I am my father's son. So I just love servant leaders, and I love leaders that are high integrity, that set a vision, that are serving other people, and that unify people under pressure. And I have a real hard time. And it's a problem. One of my mentors, Rick Warren, I was complaining about a leader that was on TV with his mistress, very famous leader who's written all kinds of books. And I'm just like, what is this guy doing? He's on TV with his mistress. And Rick said, Mike, you need to learn to judge the medicine, not the vessel, because we can learn from everyone. But I have a hard time with leaders that are out of integrity. And
it feels unfair to you.
Pardon me?
Feels unfair, maybe?
It just feels like, I get sideways with it because that's not what leadership looked like for me as a child or even today.
What's your mindset when it comes to hustle and hard work?
Oh, yes. That's a good question. I think that there's this tension between grit and quit that they're both really great and they both really suck the life out of you. And learning to balance grit and quit, learning to know when to use each is a dance that I think most of us never master.
What I struggle with is like, how do you know when to quit?
Yeah.
Like when do you know it's time for me to give up?
Okay. So we have a mutual friend, Brad. And I would argue that Brad is one of the best quitters I know. And I would argue that I suck at quitting. So having Brad as a friend and a mentor who I trust, I'm likely to listen to Brad and he's like, what the hell are you doing, man? Show me your data. When was the last time you made any money? Where's the growth? Like, he will challenge me and he will get me to quit, but I'm not going to do it. I'm just going to keep grinding. So again, I think it's having someone in your ecosystem that you really trust that's going to convince you that maybe you're seeing things the wrong way.
Got it.
Sometimes your wife, by the way, or your partner is the one who say, really? You haven't been happy. You're not the person you used to be. You're not sleeping well. You're killing yourself. How about maybe it's time? Maybe it's time to it's okay.
Are you a good listener when that happens?
I'm pretty good. Yeah. There are people in my life who I say thank you when they say things I don't want to hear, but I need to hear. My go-to punches now, I say thank you. And I walk away and I think about it.
I love that. That is a gift to be able to receive that.
Here's the test. You're driving and your partner next to you goes, look out. And you wet yourself just a little bit. You tinkle just a little bit. And you look at the thing that you already saw that was coming at you and they're freaking out. And you say, thank you.
There's a whole bit about partners driving in cars and how they interact, right? There is absolutely a bit we're going to have to do at some point in time, because this is like you can judge a couple and how long they've been married and how happy they are based on how they drive an hour together in traffic using GPS. I am certain of it.
Yeah.
I have amazing stories and memories about these things. When it comes to marriage advice.
Oh, God.
Yeah. What are you going to tell your voice?
Oh, okay. That's good. Okay. So I did a TED Talk for YPO a few years ago and it was lost. It's like the lost tapes. I knew they weren't recording it. And the TED Talk I did was basically, in business, find your opposite. Opposites attract. In life, find someone that thinks like you. Now, this is another hot take. My experience is that even though you're attracted to an opposite, in business, that's really good because you can do something with that. You can build something. You have different points of view. But in life, if you're opposite, particularly with values, like values, there have to be the same values. I think finding someone that sings about your strengths, maybe compliments a few of your weaknesses, but is not your polar opposite, is the way to go.
Got it. So shared values and complementary. And then what about growing together? I mean, you and Tina are just getting started. You and Ruthie had 20 plus years, right?
Yeah.
So like
30
plus. Yeah. Like you weren't the same people you were back then
Yeah. I think that they're, some of the best advice I ever got about marriage was to put your relationship first. It's like faith, relationship, family. And I think the couples that I admire are the ones that have so much fun together. They've built such a relationship so that when the children leave the house, they still have that. The mistake I see a lot of people making is they pour everything into their kids and then they wake up one day, the kids are gone, they don't recognize each other. They don't have that common bond. So we would go on date nights every week, religiously. And we just, we had a lot of fun together. Looking forward to just hanging out together was something that, what a treat, as a couple, if you just really love hanging out together. So I would protect that.
Got it. And you and Tina are taking many of those things and applying them as well, right?
Yeah, well, we're both 7s on the Enneagram.
Okay.
And I told you earlier, I was talking to an Enneagram expert that we both know. And I said, Tina, you have any questions for him? And her question was, yeah, we're both 7s. Are we going to have the best life ever? Or are we completely doomed? And his response was, yes.
Mm-hmm. Tell me about a time where like you had a big mistake, or as I would say, in a closed room where you fucked up.
Oh my gosh. How long is this podcast? I mean, most of my mistakes in business were where I didn't realize that my jazz hands and sparkle fingers my declarative style about ideas were marching orders. Like I was just outwardly processing. Wouldn't it be great if this, and this, and people would run off and start doing it. And so I would start all these little fires and then complain about the smoke, and I didn't realize that was me doing that. So
Totally. God, can I identify with that?
yeah,
That's real. Yeah. Jazz hands and sparkle fingers. That's what a way to say it.
I eventually had a partner who would say, Mike, don't go do anything. Don't activate, Mike. I'm just asking you. This is just an idea. Let me think about it a while. Because I was so ready, fire, aim all the time created a culture like that.
Have you always been like one of the most creative guys in the room?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay. Well,
I've always been good with ideas.
You've always had
fearless with ideas. Fearless.
Yeah. But not just fearless, but you've always had a flow of ideas. You can be in a conversation.
Yes.
They come out.
Yes.
How do you handle that? I struggle with that. I need advice on how to manage that and not always feel alone.
So this is, I love this. My business partner, Raf, who is the operator at Maddox Douglas, I'd come in and go, I got an idea. And that's where Idea Monkey came from. He came in one day and said, hey, Idea Monkey, I need an idea. And I'm like, Idea Monkey? I love that. Anyway, I would go running into his office and like, hey, what about this? And he would, with great drama, slowly reach down for a dry erase marker and then slowly walk over to a whiteboard at the long list and stare at the long list of ideas I'd come to him with. And he's like, where does this idea go on our list of priorities? And he'd be very dramatic about it. I'm like, all right, you're right. Usually I go, never mind.
But how do you figure out when sometimes one of those ideas is the next top one?
I think that insights matter, ideas don't. If there's a raging need in the market that nobody is filling and you have an idea to fill it, it's probably a good idea. The challenge with people like me is all ideas seem really exciting and like it's fun to have ideas and start executing ideas. So I've needed to train myself to start with a need first, like a real need, and then have an idea to solve it. And that's what great companies do too.
Tell me when you last learned a valuable lesson that you didn't see coming.
Okay, so I don't know if I've told you this story or not, but Inc. magazine used to call all the time and say, we want to write a story about your biggest mistake. And then one day they called and said, we're doing a story about how entrepreneurs are good or bad with money. I'm like, they're terrible with money. So they interviewed me. And then a week later they said, hey, we need to take a picture of you because we're doing caricatures for the article. You made the article. I'm like, great. And then during this time, we were trying to adopt a son. And we were going through the cradle here in Evanston. And we were working with a young lady named Alicia. And things were going great. And we'd met a bunch of people and we were getting close, we thought, to adopting our son from Alicia. Meanwhile, Inc. magazine called and said, hey, we need you to go take a picture. I'm like, no, I sent you a picture. And this is Alicia at Inc. magazine. She goes, no, they didn't tell you? You're going to be on the cover of Inc. magazine. You're the cover boy. I'm like, I'm the cover boy? Like, yeah, we're going to use your. So they sent me to Chicago to a studio where they shot all the Rolling Stone pictures. So there's like Bruce Springsteen and Fleetwood Mac and all this and me. I spent a day taking pictures and I'm like, I can't believe this. And I go home and I tell my mom, I'm like, hey, don't tell anybody, but I'm going to be the cover of Inc. magazine, right? So then I get a call from the adoption agency and they said, hey, listen, this is our counselor. I need to warn you about a change of heart. And I go, what's that? She goes, oftentimes the adoptive mother will have a change of heart and it's usually right after they have the baby. So I just want you to prepare your heart for a change of heart. So we went home and talked to my wife about it, my late wife, and prepared our heart. So 2 days later, I get an email and the subject line is change of heart from Alicia. And my stomach dropped. And I remember like tearing up and clicking read. And it was Alicia saying, Mike, I'm so sorry. The editor has had a change of heart. The market just took a dump. So we're still doing the story, but you're no longer to be on the cover. And in that moment, I was so happy. And I realized this shit doesn't matter, man. This business stuff doesn't matter. And I was so thankful that the only person I told about that until about right now was my mom.
Wow. What a great story. What's some advice you hope the generation below us would take?
I guess the advice I would give, I would hope for, is make lots of friends, like have really great relationships. At the end of the day, that's what's going to make you happy. The more relationships you have, I worry about younger people because they aren't making really good friends. Meet people that aren't like you. Travel. I think the more people you know, the more you will love people. People
Yeah.
are awesome.
I would add like experience, right? Lean into experiences are the greatest. Like it's where I feel like my brain and my body expand. I can't get that from technology. I can get a really weak dose of that. But as I've told my kids, and I don't know, where this will land, but just because you've watched something and you've felt an emotion to that doesn't mean you've experienced it in real life, right? And so like getting in the game is just so huge.
And I tell anybody that'll listen that money is for memories. Like if you can use your money to make memories for the people you care about, your family, yourself, that's what it's for. Those memories last forever. And I don't think you'll ever regret spending money on a great memory.
Yeah.
And the inverse is true too.
Mm-hmm. Totally agree. Why do you think so many high achievers struggle in their personal relationships?
That's a good question. Is that true? Do high achievers struggle with their personal relationships?
It's a question that I don't know the data around.
Yeah.
I think that's I probably have to think about it a little bit more and do some homework. It's a story I tell myself.
Where I struggle with my personal relationships is when I'm trying to fix things instead of listening. I'm a natural born fixer. And a phrase that I hear from Tina before she starts talking a lot of times is like, look, there's nothing I need you to fix here, but I want to tell you something, which is her signal. Like, I need to air this out. I need to talk it out with someone. Please don't try to fix it.
So you need to downshift to neutral when you have to listen.
Yeah. And I would say that high achievers are fixers. They're like, well, let's fix it. Let's fix it. Sometimes things don't need to be fixed.
How do you know the distinction of when it needs to be fixed versus when you need to listen? Is it blunt force trauma or is it more nuanced than that?
Yeah. So that's a good question. My late friend, David Emerald, taught me the drama triangle. It's Stephen Cartman's model. There's a victim, a persecutor, and a rescuer. And, the joke is that must be really hard. Sometimes it's just to listen. It's not about the nail, that great video. Yeah. And when I asked that question to David Emerald, he said if the person is suffering, it needs to be fixed. If they're not suffering, listen.
What's one truth you had to unlearn to live a happier life?
I'm not sure it's a truth, but I think the maxim that if you find something you love, you'll never work a day in your life is really bad advice. And the reason is because it gets people stuck. They're on this treasure hunt for something they love, so they get stuck. They're not moving. And I've seen it with people in my own family where it's like, just start doing shit, like go right. Do stuff and you'll life will tell you what you're good at, what you like, etc. So that's a maxim that I don't, and I used to say it. I am guilty of saying, just find something you love and you'll never work a day in your life. Now I say, just get in there, start swimming and figure it out. It'll come to you.
Awesome. This was fantastic, man.
I love you.
Love you too. Thank you.